then probably not.
Dear God, don't ever take advice from me. I mean, if you want to buy a house, other than that.
I think I got that on recording.
Welcome to episode 18 of the Not Salty podcast. I'm your host, John Bell. And as always, I'm joined by my friends and co-hosts, Mike Fenton and Kristen Skeevers. In this episode, we interview our friend, Jake Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, a.k.a. the guy that brings all the cool music to MoonShadow. We learn how Sully made his way to Deep Creek from Wisconsin and how his passion for music with a background in marketing has led to a pretty adventurous career. I'm not sure how to accurately describe Sully. He's part teddy bear, more like Ted than Winnie. Mike, I think you can be his Marky Mark, and kind of part Darth Vader. So I guess you'll just have to listen to the episode and decide for yourself. Either way, Sully, it's been a pleasure to get to know you. You're a great addition to the community. Keep doing what you do and keep bringing the great music to the area. Mike, hit the intro. Here we go. Welcome to episode 18 of the Not Salty podcast. I'd like to say we're going to bounce back to where we just were, but we might not.
First ever episode that got Tiger Clawed before it even started.
Yeah, Tiger Clawed all.
So, Sully, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's I started my kind of career in music and going to MoonShadow by doing a podcast with Mike a few years ago, and being invited on this has been exciting.
It's like a full circle.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a perfect circle.
I don't know your last name. Do you have a last name? Or are you just cool enough to go by
Sullivan.
Sully?
I'm not going to get any personal
Sully's your
information.
last name. I guess that does
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
make sense. Where was I on that one?
I'm Jake Sullivan. Yeah.
Jake. All right. We'll call you Sully.
You call me whatever you want.
That's how you
let's
know you
start
make it
this.
certain cool. Like you're on Prince's level. Like you just Sully. Everybody knows who you are.
The artist formerly known as Jake Sullivan.
Yeah, I go with that. I actually am going to change my name to a symbol too to make it really kind of throw that out.
What was
there.
Prince's real
That's
name?
not conducive
what was-
to podcast.
No, that's not at all. Not at all.
Here's our guest. We hope you can see.
Yeah. It's kind of some squiggly lines.
Does the symbol come with a sound?
What sound do you think I would make for my symbol, Mike?
It would be similar to whatever I would imagine a treble clef would
Treble
sound
clef?
like. Yeah, like
You don't think he's a bass?
yeah, of course he is. But that's what's confusing.
I can go high, I can go low. I'm
Yeah.
versatile with this.
Jeez. Once
Fair
again,
enough.
you've got a good radio voice.
I know that's what
Yeah.
I was thinking. You
I've
should.
done a little bit.
All right. So you have a background in radio? Like
Not a
you-
background, but I got
Yeah.
I worked on the local stage and working with 94.1 a few times when I was a young man. And it's actually what I thought about going to college for was getting into marketing and getting into
You should do
Sound recording.
audiobooks.
Audiobooks?
Don't worry. We'll get you to read Jonathan's audiobook.
I was actually-
although he's got a good voice too.
Years ago, I worked at a place called the Majestic Theater, and my bartenders had me read 50 Shades of Grey to them at night. And I'm not going to repeat any of that. right
How
now.
was
We're gonna
that
leave
reading
for
that out loud to a group of people?
hysterical, honestly. You know,
So so I read those. You guys, I'm sure you guys are men. You probably didn't read it.
I'll tell you in a minute. I read a couple pages.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
That's
it's
all
better
they.
than I
Okay.
did.
Pages?
I read a
He's
couple
saying he
pages.
didn't read the beginning couple pages. He read a couple pages.
Like somewhere in the middle.
Oh, right.
somewhere,
Okay, yeah.
Anyway,
like, flip
there's
it up.
3 books in the series. Just for all the girls out there, they're gonna totally agree with me.
Okay.
When you read them in a row,
Yeah.
by the time you get to the 3rd book, you're like, all right, I get it, and you're skipping pages, and you're like, what happens in the story?
Yeah.
Because-
not much.
On the no, exactly not much. But when you're on the 3rd book, I get it. I get what you're doing. I get it, and you
Yeah.
just flip. Because I'm actually more interested in the plot by book 3. But
Yeah.
that's just my personal opinion.
I must have flipped to a good page because it was just laying there, and I picked it up, and I have no idea what page it was on. It was the one that was folded down. I read a couple pages, and I was like, I'll leave that
Yeah.
one alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I honestly, here's the best part, and it sounds like you guys are dancing around it. I don't even know what it's about. Tiger Claw?
Tiger Claw.
Anyway,
You've dabbled in radio.
A little bit. I always wanted to, years ago when Mike was playing around the idea of making a podcast, it really had me excited. And then I realized that everyone made a podcast there. Like there was that thing that happened, that COVID.
Oh,
thing,
COVID.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
Everybody
Podcast
was at
explosion.
home. Yeah, so everybody had to talk to somebody. So they talked into microphones. And I was going to do that for sure. And I just could not figure out what I would talk about. And it would probably just lead to someone wanting to do a psychological analysis of me.
Well,
Just
that's
terrible.
kind of, we're
Yeah.
Probably in the same boat.
I'm
you know?
curious about
Right,
what
I'm about
podcast number we are. I remember Dax Shepard, when he was naming Armchair Expert, he was going to name it the millionth podcast. Like, that was his joke.
Yeah, yeah.
But he actually wasn't even the millionth. I think it was more than the millionth at that time. And Armchair Expert's been around for
A really long time.
10 years. There's probably 5 million podcasts. But I heard we're in the top 3 million. So
Yeah, we got to be in the top 3.
100%.
Yeah, I've heard some pretty bad podcasts out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't. You know, I stick with what I know. I found a couple, and I listen to them, and then every once in a while, I'll venture on. But
Yeah, I really like Last Podcast on the Left. They really,
Oh, so good.
oh my god,
What's it about?
Very good.
yeah.
It's hard to explain. They do a lot of true crime
Yeah.
stories,
Okay.
but they're all just a bunch of terrible people that I enjoy.
Yeah.
They tend to be heavily stoned and drunk during their podcasts, and they have to take segues because things get real dark, and they don't want to take it too dark all the time.
yeah, so Last Podcast on the Left.
It's
Yeah.
like a play on Last House on the Left, which is a horror movie that was also remade later on.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's really good.
Thinking I'm not familiar. with
Actually,
either.
the original Last House on the Left is woof. The new one is really good too because it's like newer technology. The gore is a little better, but the old one, it's from the 70s. But I think
Well, that's
70s or 80s. But it's both versions are very good.
Yeah, I enjoy the old stuff because of that dreamy quality. I still own a VHS player because
You
I
do.
find
You
it-
should see his house. He's got a
Yeah.
wall of VHS tapes.
Where do you get your VHS? Like, just have
Anywhere
them?
I can
You
get 'em.
can't go rent them anymore.
No, you
No.
just pick them up. So many people think it's funny that they bring me things,
Yeah.
especially deep cuts, horror movies from the 70s and 80s that had maybe one pressing, one release. And I enjoy it all, from schlock to high end. And I'm definitely one of those people that believes that with media companies going the way they are, they're starting to funnel things in that we don't want you to watch this anymore. We don't want you to listen
Oh
to this
yeah,
anymore.
well you can't find certain okay, I know this is probably a weird spinoff, but they eliminated a scene from the original Muppet Christmas Carol movie, which is like my Christmas movie, and nobody liked that song anyway. But still, I'm like, it's gone, and then
Yeah.
if you get you can find it.
Well,
Not on
like-
VHS.
I
It's
thought it was
probably
No, the VHS is
Unfiltered.
Yeah, unfiltered.
Well, Jim Henson was really reaching
So
with that
is
fully nude Miss
50
Piggy
Shades of
scene.
Grey.
I think he just really should.
Poor Miss
So,
Piggy.
all right. So we got on the podcast. You and I, I was upstairs in my little closet that I made. You were downstairs in what probably felt like a dungeon, which is where my, new studio will eventually be.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. Had a real Silence of the Lambs feel.
Yeah, well, and you were on my really, really old MacBook that just died too. So I hadn't touched it in years, and I'm like, wow, we got to get him on here somewhere, somehow. So we were using Zoom, and he got on. And then Mogi and Ross were on too. But
How do we hear this podcast?
so I'm gonna send it out to them for Christmas next year, and then. But I don't know if you guys want to listen to it, you can. They're like 4 hours long.
Oh,
Yeah. Basically, it came another COVID podcast where we were just like, we can't go hang out and drink anywhere, so let's just hang out and drink on
record it.
Zoom, and record it. So, and we couldn't stop saying each other's names because we were like, we can't go public with this. We're not recording videos, we just 4 dudes talking around being weird. But anyway, you wound up at MoonShadow, and I'm happy for you because I remember you were talking on our podcast about your background in music and working in clubs, and tell us a little bit about that without getting too rated R. Because obviously you've worked with some really cool musical acts.
Maybe if you don't mind, started with MoonShadow. That's kind of where you are now. And
That's a good
Deep
point,
Creek,
yeah.
and Go back.
I'm the entertainment and marketing director over at MoonShadow, which pretty much means I just sit in the back of the room and I listen to music all the time. And for all of you out there that are jealous, be jealous. Be very jealous. My thing is that I'm not originally from the area. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin. And,
Wow.
came out here years ago. My mom got married and moved out here, and I came out to the mountains and returned back to Wisconsin, go to school. And after getting out of high school, getting through, kind of clawing my way through college, not really knowing where I'm going, I ended up working in nightclubs and music venues. And you start out bouncing, start out bartending. And for me, it was always the music.
Yeah.
And started working in rock and roll clubs, a dirty little place called the Annex on Regent Street in Madison. And it opened up a whole new world to me, and much different music scene than what I'm used to out here. And it led me down the path. I started working at other nightclubs. you lose jobs, you gain jobs, you try to go towards what you want. And I ended up working some big shows, working from everything up to festival size. And then, but really my
Doing like running sound or just more on the marketing side or
really anything I could get myself into. I love music so much that I wasn't a musician. I just wanted to help. That was my thing. I just wanted to be around all these cool things on a nightly basis and get paid for it. And for years, you know, you stick with clubs and you move up. Sometimes you get to work big shows. I worked for AMA and RTM Personal Securities, which is just, you know, the guys wearing the red and the pink shirts up the front. You know, we all have kind of man boobs and we push you back when you crowd surf into the front.
volume. Yeah. Just volume.
Yeah. And, you know, got to bartend at a bunch of great places, helped open a wonderful club called The Frequency, which was like 100-person shotgun style bar right in the heart of Madison. It was opened up by my Jedi master, Darwin Sampson, and he made just this really cool space for musicians that normally wouldn't have a venue to play, whether that was really weird progressive space rock to art show acts and burlesque and metal and hip hop. He gave it all a shot, and that it took me to absolute highs when it comes to me personally, just working with people on that level, helping them kind of promote their art from the inside.
Well, we talk about that a lot, about the potential that you see for that being for here, you know. And
sure, very much so.
I'd like you to at least tell us, like, you had kind of explained to me how this place has like a hub for traveling musicians, because when you're traveling across the country trying to make money making music,
sure,
every single stop that you have, you really got to try and play a show or two.
Yeah.
You know, to keep yourself on the road. So, you know, explain that a little bit, because you sold me, and I'm pretty pumped about it, especially when you kind of cross-reference it with places like the Purple Fiddle, who, you know, bring some really big acts coming through.
Yeah, you mean everybody that isn't part of the music scene or isn't part of being out on a nightly basis. The pandemic really put a hurt on bars, restaurants, but in particular the music scene.
Yeah.
You know, you can't have big venues where you're having musicians play with huge crowds of folks and just expect masks to work. So
that is tough.
People got scared. People stayed away. And the music industry has gone in this very strange direction where, you know, on an average Friday or Saturday night years ago, every bar had music, whether it was the local cover band or somebody that's touring or, you know, just somebody sitting on a seat playing an acoustic guitar. And you're not seeing it as much.
What does MoonShadow have now? Aren't they Friday and Saturday night?
We go
music?
mostly Friday, Saturday, and then we do Sunday brunch. And we've opened it up quite a bit. You know, I've tried to give a little bit more of a professional city tone to MoonShadow's music.
I was going to ask you what type? What's the style of music at MoonShadow? I don't know how to describe it.
Eclectic, eclectic acoustic being the bread and butter, I guess, would be our way.
Yeah,
Bluegrass music, Americana is definitely their key. But I like bringing some weird ones. I like bringing in funk. I like bringing in jazz. And I've brought some musicians that normally wouldn't come to Garrett County. We've had some international musicians come through in the last year. We've had Surfer Joe from Italy. He's one of the best surfer.
Oh, that was super cool, man. I wish I could have been there for that.
Yeah, just an amazing artist. I mean,
How do you find them?
Yeah.
Well, luckily, because I've had a history in it, I've had a few connections that I've pulled to be like, hey, guys, I've got this great setup out in the mountains, and it's kind of an untapped resource out here.
Isn't MoonShadow the only local bar with a stage, or are there other ones?
I mean, there's
I guess
people
Honi
around.
Honi has one, but
Sure.
so that's to get into the music venue. You've got to you're going to have the music scene pick up here, and then you're going to bring in bigger artists.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, I'm dealing with a mom and pop venue. We don't have a huge budget, so I'm pretty upfront with that. Like, guys, you know, we work best with solo groups, duos, you know, acoustic stuff to keep the dinner vibe going. Because really, you know, I'm helping MoonShadow develop into what it should be, which they've got. You know, they used to go by the MoonShadow Cafe, and then they kind of just evolved into a restaurant, and now they've got the MoonShadow Cafe, which is their coffee bar. But for me, I envision it as an Appalachian bohemian supper club.
Makes total sense.
And when it comes to supper clubs, there's probably a lot of listeners that are wondering what that is.
I'm one of them.
You're one of them. Supper clubs were made way back in the day. So you're looking like in the days of cabaret and the early 1900s, where you were just starting to see the making of the middle class, where people were allowed to go out on the weekends and spend a little bit of that money that they've made. And supper clubs were that combination of live entertainment, music, comedy, bar, and restaurant. And if
So like dim lights, candle on a little table, two people staring towards
More than just dinner.
the 3-minute tracking shot in Goodfellas,
Exactly.
you know, coming through, you know, and they were prominently made in the Midwest. One of the most notable supper clubs was made by a gentleman from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who came out to L.A. and made a venue out there, and it caught on. You know, Hollywood loved it because you could go out on a Friday and Saturday, and mom and dad could go out, get dressed up, go and see a reasonably priced act, get a steak, have their dinner, and you never know who you're going to see there, you know, and that really took on in L.A., whereas like, you might see a famous person come through the
that's a
door.
good point because they just all live out there. Yeah.
But meanwhile, in the Midwest, on the East Coast, it was very much the working man's Friday night, Saturday night. And, you know, my grandparents brought me up in that, in the Midwestern supper club culture where grandma and grandpa getting dressed up. We're going out Friday night. We're going to go, you know, square dancing, or we're going to go swing dancing, or we're going to go watch a blues or jazz band play, and then have your decent dinner and have cocktails. And then at the end of the night, everybody goes home, you know, and that's exactly what MoonShadow is. We're giving you dinner and a show, and we're trying to give you a little bit more than just your average fare. And to give you that experience of like, you're not just dealing with a musician sitting in a corner of a bar valiantly playing loudly.
Yeah, like trying to get over people's, you know, talking and stuff like. But I feel like, especially during the dinner time, you guys have really starting to dial in that balance.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, we don't want them blasting while everybody's eating dinner, but we also, I mean, it does feel like you're getting drawn towards the stage though, which is cool. You know, because I think one of the things that you had mentioned, which is really cool, it's like, okay, obviously it's challenging to have the funds to bring a big act in, and that is what it is. But there's an opportunity for people who are traveling from New York City, they're driving, and yeah, sure, we might not get like a national act come through, but a regional act coming from New York through that's going to Chicago, and you're just like, you get in connection with them, and you get a $3,000 act for $600. So they're like, hey, I'll take $600 over nothing.
Yeah.
You
And
did.
then, you know what I mean?
I know you guys aren't country music fans, or Fenton, you're not too much, but they did have Jackson Dean at the fairground. At the time, Jackson Dean was the number
That's
one
super true.
artist on country pop.
Yeah,
whatever,
well, we've
and,
talked about that before. Eric Church came, Russell Dickerson.
So
Like,
they show up here once in a
Yeah.
while. Like, I think what he did was actually book the concert before he got famous. Like, this is according to a real quick Google search. His parents used to have a vacation house here, or whatever, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to play the Garrett County Fairgrounds?" 2 or 3 years ago, and then he came out with a hit, and he became super famous. I think he kind of showed up, and he's like, "What am I doing here?" But anyway, no, he was here. He had a great time. But,
Sure, that happens. I mean, Mike brought up the idea that I discussed a while ago, that Deep Creek is a hub. I mean, you've got a lot of great places in the region. You got 123 Pleasant over in Morgantown.
Yeah.
You've got, of course, the immortal Purple Fiddle. John's got such a great club down there and such a great vibe in a small place. I mean, Thomas
That
Davis,
place
West
just
Virginia.
blows me away every time I
it's
drive
kind of in
through.
the middle of nowhere, and it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Right,
Yeah.
it's magic.
Yeah.
It's absolute magic. You go down there and you see some great acts that are way bigger than just a tiny little town should have. And I view the same thing for Deep Creek, is that we've got this beautiful tourist town where people are starting to move to out of the cities, and they're very savvy. They know what they want for a late night show.
Yeah.
And for MoonShadow, obviously that's a little bit of an older crowd, and so I've got to make the music fit to that. But this town is right where everybody wants to be in Western Maryland.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I just really jacked it up. I said MoonShadow was the only place with a stage here, and I couldn't be more wrong. But you're bringing up good. I don't really hit the bars all that much anymore. But then I started thinking about it. You've got MoonShadow, you've got Blackberry, you've got Honi Honi.
Sure.
Keep going down the list, and there are different ones. Like at 46-year-old, MoonShadow is probably my kind of place. You know what I mean? I like the idea of the supper club thing you talked about. We like to go there and have dinner, watch a band play.
Right.
I'm probably not mosh pitting at 2:00 in the morning.
Right.
I say probably because to keep the whiskey away. But
Yeah.
but if you want to do that, there's also Black Bear, and the Honi Honi is a little bit different scene. But that is bringing music here.
Yeah, it's kind of under the skin here in town. You know, that we all know that Black Bear has entertainment. We all know that Honi Honi's got bands, and they've got their own their own sound. You know, Black Bear's got some pretty wild nights. I bet definitely been in there and had
And
a
they,
good time
they
with
have
Black
like
Bear.
more of the, a lot of time, not always, because they do have bands. They have like a kind of like a Saturday night club kind of feel going
Yes.
on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They want to have like a DJ.
It's really
and
the
things
only like
that.
club in the
It,
area.
and so the point I was trying to make is MoonShadow kind of feels like the only restaurant that has like a stage kind of like up, and lights and a sound system and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Because
I
Honi
think-
also has something like that, but it's like kind of in
yeah,
a corner.
but you can't like sit and eat. That's the thing with like you
Honi's
can't.
more daytime
Yeah,
party.
well, I
get
mean,
some
like
chicken
even
wings,
like I went to
you
see a band at Honi last
And
weekend,
the
2
sound
weekends
is
ago,
good, yeah.
and it was right
a
up my
blast.
alley.
Yeah.
It was so fun. I mean, drenched in sweat. You can just imagine. It's
Yeah.
30 degrees out. I'm wearing jeans. I'm just drenched. But anyway, so fun. But there's nowhere to sit. Like I didn't go to sit and eat dinner.
Yeah.
But you could you can at MoonShadow. You can at Mountain State. But if you're sitting inside at Mountain State, you can't hear it. So MoonShadow has that really great feel that like you said, they're high on the stage and like you could ignore them and eat your dinner, or you can watch and eat your dinner.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's not like one or the other where like you're in a club listening to a band or you're eating dinner.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It's a good blend of both.
Is it cool to loop or connect MoonShadow and Purple Fiddle in the same category? They remind me of each other.
You
kind
know,
of.
it's one of those things where John, he is. a hell
Is that
of a
the owner?
businessman. John, yeah, he owns Purple Fiddle, and normally he doesn't help a lot of people from the Reputation. He doesn't lean out to a lot of folks, and it's my pride to say that as much as I try to help people go down that way, I know I'm not sending people to Purple Fiddle, but he is sending people up here to help us out. And the view is that we're about 40 minutes, an hour apart. And you look at major venues in a city, such as Chicago or Pittsburgh or Baltimore, is that they've got about half-hour distance between each mid-sized to major club. You're going to be looking at 15, 20 minutes drive time in between there. And so we're not really stepping on each other's toes. And I'm not taking his big acts, but we are exchanging small acts between each other because it's just helping them. We've got kids from the coast that are coming out here that are backpacking or, bussing their way across the country, and every show counts. And this whole area's got this vibe that's going on that could break at any minute. And I've said it's more of a Northern Appalachia, Asheville.
Oh, yeah.
We could have this great music vibe in Western Maryland if everybody kind of band together, not looking at it as competition, because
There's so much talent. Like that's
is.
the thing. Like I had been done playing music when I moved here. I was like, I hadn't touched my guitar in years, and then I started meeting some of those, ASI, kayaking, backpacking people, and down at Ken's Irish Pub.
Sure.
We'd go out there, and I was like, what is going on here? And I went to like my first Purple Fiddle show, and I was like, why is all of this here? It doesn't make any sense to me. We're like, not. But it just isn't. I don't know if it's people that come here or people that grew up here, or a mix of all
That's
of it.
what I was gonna get at. This isn't my space, so I don't know. But I don't think Purple Fiddle and MoonShadow compete with each other. Like in my opinion, MoonShadow's Deep Creek. Okay, you come to Deep Creek, you know what MoonShadow is. You give them a plug. They're up Amasa Road. They're 2 miles off the lake, and people who come to Deep Creek know where they are. People that come to Deep Creek don't really know where the Purple Fiddle is unless you know somebody from ASCI, unless whatever.
Yeah.
Like Purple Fiddle, in my opinion, more pulls from Canadian Valley, Timberline, those places.
Yes.
It might do, like, if you've got a great band, why not play them in Purple Fiddle one night and bring them to MoonShadow the next night, and people might follow each other.
There's quite a bit of that.
Okay.
I've had a lot of bands in the last year, particularly, where
And for the artist, it's easy. They're right down the road.
Yeah, and I actually try to set up shows with that, where for me, I reach out to other venues. I like going to other people and touching base and be like, look, I'm not trying to blow you out of the water. I'm not trying to, my club's better than your club. It's that these artists don't have a place to play. And the people that are really putting on a good show, where they take care of the artist, they give them a place to stay, they make sure they're fed, they make sure that they're paid properly. That can be very few and far between, traveling between the states. But here in Deep Creek, we're right in the middle. And you've got Frostburg. They've got a pretty vibrant music scene in their small clubs. You've got Cumberland.
College Town too, right? Well,
Frederick.
College Town, Morgantown, and Frostburg. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're right there where we can draw people, particularly talent that's coming through the area. And this is a great stop. And
I don't know how close it is, but it's kind of related, but kind of not. There's a group who puts on hockey tournaments, for kids. And Deep Creek is a convenient place for them. So the kids play hockey. Some are in Cleveland, some are in Baltimore, some in D.C., some in Pittsburgh, and Deep Creek is the primary spot for them. So they did buy a piece of property here, and they're talking about building an indoor hockey rink for that exact reason. It's just a hub, you know what I mean? So if that works for hockey, it'd probably work for music too.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking for years. I came here about 10 years ago, and, just being an outsider, being in a place in my life where I was looking to do something different, and you fall back into the same holes. I worked in service industry all my life, and doing the odd job, working in construction, I just always ended up going back to bartending and cooking just because it's been my life since I was 12 years old. But music has always been my reach. It's like I wanted to bring the music I worked with in the cities out here. And how was I going to do that? And the podcast that I was on with Mike, I just kind of bared the soul where it was like I would give anything to bring music out here. And Mogi's the one that told me, hey, man, there's a great place here in town. They could use your help. They don't have anybody booking music for them anymore, and the stage could really be something. And I had walked into MoonShadow once before that and had really not taken much away from it. I stopped in, had a drink, and left just thinking, oh, well, that's cool. They got a nice stage here. I wonder what they do. And didn't hear much about it. And, pandemic came. Things went the way of the dodo. Shows weren't happening. And when I came in, it was just this kind of raw space. The sound system needed improved. They certainly needed to work on the backdrop and kind of giving a little bit more of a cleaned up show. And so I just went right to work on it. I found some sound engineers, Scott Brooks, one of the patron saints, if not a guardian angel for Western Maryland. Scott has been working in music for many, many decades here. I shouldn't say many, many because he's still a young enough guy, but Scott has helped almost all the major venues in Western Maryland.
As far as like getting their sound up, running
Getting
tight.
their sound up, running and tight, and then also playing as a musician. He's a talented
he's
blues man.
Cool slide guitar work I saw for the first time the other night.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, Appalachian blues man for sure.
Yeah.
Playing resonator guitars and playing slide. Great sound to him. And this guy, he told me, he's like, you can't afford me, kid. If you're going to have me come in and do this stuff, I'm doing it because I'm helping get this venue up and running. And so we fixed what we could fix, and we put in some sound dampening materials and angled the speakers so they weren't blowing people's fake teeth right out of their mouths from the stage, which was one of the big complaints that I had heard about MoonShadow when I came in there, is that it's
being too loud.
Yeah, it's too loud. It's not a business that was made to be a music venue, but we're making it into one.
Yeah.
So, we have that.
It's the hard thing, and we learned this. Working. For the Birds was a weird phenomenon. You know what I mean?
was great.
It was like 5 or 6 people and all our friends together made a big group, basically.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's hard to get people to come out for late night shows, man. It's just really challenging, and I think you guys are taking a good direction, focusing on like that supper club vibe.
Sure.
Dinner music. And believe you me, man, I want that. I want a late night venue nearby because I like going out and seeing, bigger acts and things like that.
Well, doesn't it make sense? Like, I don't know, I'm 15 years older than you, whatever I am.
Yeah.
Doesn't it make sense that we would all go out to dinner and I would probably go home and then you guys would go to Black Bear afterwards or something? Like, isn't there part to that category? Like,
well, that's something that you brought up. Sorry, I didn't know I'm going to cut you off, but it's like you were talking about how booking works in an area where it's like that's exactly what you're trying to help coordinate is getting the right people in the right venues so that way all the venues are making out and the musicians are making out. I mean, can you explain that a little bit?
Well, we want that tide to lift all boats. We've got these places in town that MoonShadow has a vibe that is much more laid back, a lot more of a granola hippie vibe. And I, for one, would love to have a down and dirty rock and roll club in town. And it doesn't stop me from booking rock and roll or metal at MoonShadow. I've booked some pretty tongue-in-cheek shows that I don't think Lisa was prepared for. And thankfully, she let me get away with some pretty cool stuff in that time. But, if we had a little bit more of that, where we have rock and roll and country, because certainly, it can't just be my flavor of music.
Rock and roll
So what-
is, country is kind of rock and roll.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
sure.
It's like loud and
When it's
punchy,
done
and,
right,
yeah.
What is your flavor then? So you brought it up. So what is
Here
like?
we go.
Jamaican,
Can
dinner
you-
music,
can you
Caribbean,
rank them?
salsa.
Yeah, well,
Breakfast Club.
I like to sit around quite late at night, listen to a lot of Mongolian throat singing. That really gets me going.
Check it out.
Really like 1970s
Click the link.
experimental Japanese jazz where it's mostly just cats screaming.
Oh, that's just my daily life.
I was I was brought up by a very good family. My family, I was raised by a cadre of women that made sure that I was a well-rounded young man, and I am, in fact, a well-rounded young man. And so I was brought up on things like Harry Chapin and Gordon Lightfoot. And so that was my childhood.
What is that? Is that like folk music?
Yeah, Harry Chapin and Gordon Lightfoot. Gordon Lightfoot's got, he made the song Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I'm sure everybody's heard that a million times. If they've
Maybe.
Listened to
Hum a
it
bar.
earlier today.
Did you?
But
No,
I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, I don't know either.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy.
okay.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say he's like a mellow singer guy.
Singing.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
Sing.
that folk movement in the 70s that was kind of like the
Yeah.
remnants of the hippie music that went off in a different direction. And
Oh,
Harry
okay.
Chapin, he started off as a protest singer in the 60s. He started off kind of that beatnik movement in the late 50s, and he was a storyteller. And
Bob Dylan.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Oh, early Bob Dylan.
yeah, you're looking at like that's definitely contemporary. He came up around them, and Harry died in the early 80s. He was my mom's favorite singer, and he was such an influential person. If you didn't know his music, go out and listen to his live music. His live shows are one of the most entertaining performances you could ever hear.
There's nothing like a good storyteller. Like B.B.
Yeah.
King is one of those like,
Yes,
oh
very
my
much
God,
so.
don't get him going, man. He's so
Right.
like, it's like magnetic listening to him talk.
And hearing those albums and having this kind of natural connection to music and having old people like, have you heard this yet? Have you heard this yet? Have you heard this? I was lucky. I was brought up around people that worked in theater. And so music and entertainment has been part of my life since I was a little boy. And moving on from that, you can't listen to folk music when you're 13 years old and you got pimples and you're raging. So, I moved on. And because I was a little bit out there, my Uncle Mick, a motorcycle riding, very, very strange man on his own, said, "Hey, man, have you ever listened to Alice in Chains? Have you ever listened?"
Oh yeah.
And this is when I was a young man, and I said, "No, Mick, who is that?" And he's like, "Well, for one, stop listening to your mother's music. Put this in. Take this cassette tape.
That's a
go
t-shirt.
home. Yeah, you're gonna grow hair in funny places after you listen to this. Here's some Rage Against the Machine. Learn how to rage against things." And so I got into that. I started listening to Tool and Pink Floyd. And
Yeah, you're a big Tool fan, right?
Yes. There's going to be people out there rolling their eyes, but I love them. I
Yeah.
love them, and you hate them just because they're that good. But, Pink Floyd, The Wall, during those turbulent teenage years, I had a VHS copy of The Wall, and I would just play.
Was it a single tape?
It was one tape, yeah. Yeah.
It's not that long. For some reason, I imagined it was longer.
Well,
but
it's 'cause,
not. I have it on DVD.
It's not exactly the best edited movie, I guess. It feels like it lasts for days.
It's good on the
goes on and
DVD
on.
though. Like,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
really crisp. I just re-listened to that on like really good headphones, and the production quality on Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall is just like sounds are here and then here and then here. It's like, how do they put sounds in different places in your headphones? It's the craziest.
It was
thing,
all
dude.
coming up during that time. That's you can actually
Nobody
thank-
else. I don't think anybody else was that like refined with the production side of things.
Well, you can thank Francis Ford Coppola for that in Apocalypse Now. That's the famous director that did
Sure. Probably came
Godfather.
from movies.
Yeah, it's the Dolby 5.1 where they could.
Yeah, you're exactly
With
right. So
different
that's
points to
where
music.
I was like, I thought I didn't know they had that back then. You
Yes.
know what I mean? So that's what kind of blew me away.
Well, you grow up with it. You grow up listening to music, and you grow up listening to soundtracks, and you just kind of think, well, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And it's not. And the late '70s, there was huge advances in music and in sound quality when it came to theater experiences.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
Man, there's no way you guys remember this. When I was a kid, you put your tape in the radio and you waited till the song you wanted to hear came on the radio, and you had to push like play and record at the exact same time. And you did not have Dolby. I mean, it was but you got your song. on the
yeah,
radio.
glorious mono with a little bit of.
That's
like,
how you made mixtapes, right?
That's how you
Yeah.
made mixtapes in the 80s.
That's fun.
Hey, I think your issue with COVID will solve itself stuff. You know what I mean? You're saying people didn't come to concerts and stuff. Well, yeah. I can tell you, I'm wanting to. Like, I grew up going to concerts. I'll tell you a quick story in a minute. I skipped a prom to go watch the Beastie Boys in D.C. at the 930 Club.
Oh, that would have been so good.
It was killer. So we just bought tickets to go see a concert this summer in Pittsburgh.
Nice.
And
Taylor Swift?
No, not Taylor Swift.
I'm going to Taylor Swift. Everyone can suck it.
I thought you were making fun of me. No, we're going to go see Morgan Wallen in Pittsburgh this summer. And but I can't wait to go, right? So, no, I grew up, the other cool thing, like in high school, we skipped school one day and watched the Cranberries play live at D.C. At the Monument and everything. So we all grow up with concerts, and when we get to our age, I miss them. Like, I can't wait to go back. So I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to go to MoonShadow with you every Saturday night and stay out till 2 o'clock, but I will, at my age, I'm excited. Like, I want to go see a concert again. I want to do it. You know?
I think you might have like a niche where it's like you have a set where it's like 7 to 9 they play dinner style music, and they start revving it up at the end, and you'll get 20 people that stick around for like the last hour, where they're not doing like a late night show, but they rev it up for the people that do want to have this. Everybody else goes back, and you'll get that turning wheel every weekend because vacationers are transient, right? So
we do. If you pay attention to our schedule, my stuff is a little bit all over the place, but I try to, I try to fit for summer and winter vibe. You can't really book too much during the mud season. But my late shows, if it's a free show, it usually starts about 8 p.m., and that's going to be a little bit more of an aggressive country rock, wild bluegrass, or getting into funk and jazz. If it's going to make somebody choke on their buffalo cauliflower, I try to just put it past the 8 o'clock hour. And then when it comes to just straight music venue, we tend to open up after 9 p.m. or 10 p.m., and that's a hard hour for a lot of folks around here. They're too used to early nights. And I've had a bunch of great shows where they were fantastic bands from New York and L.A., and we had late shows, and there's 15, 20 people there. And that's hard when you're paying them out of pocket, and you're getting people to, getting these guys to come and play, and you're trying to make that money back. But
it's a tough nut to crack when you want to have a big venue, when you want to have a real venue.
I'm rewinding the 930 Club in my head. I had a lot of fun there. Do you know a band called Real Big Fish? Have you ever heard of them?
Sure, of course.
All right, so this is probably 1995. I did, and this even gets better. I stage dived at Real Big Fish at the 930 Club, and nobody caught me. No, I literally got hurt. Like, I mean, not bad hurt, like that hospital hurt, but I was on the stage at the 930 Club with Real Big Fish, and I won't forget this. I had a black shirt on with like orange and like the guys were on the side of the road when they're working or whatever. Sure. And I don't know how old it was in 95, probably 18, 20, whatever. And I got up on stage. I was going to stage dive, and I think one person tried to catch me. But no, so that was great.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, one guy.
It was 930 Club.
Back when we're so protected from things now.
Yeah,
get up. It turns you into a man. It's just a broken bone.
I've never stage dived. I don't intend to. I'm risk aversion.
Do you think you would be perfect for crowd surfing because you're like the perfect size for it?
Thanks.
In the nicest way.
Yeah, no, I was a little bit too big to.
That's what I'm saying. John and I can't crowd surf.
I don't blame the guy that didn't catch
right.
me.
No,
it's
a compliment. If the fact that you could surf, crowd surf is a compliment. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, thank you. I'll take it as a compliment. No, crowd surfing is one of those things too where you think it's just like, oh, there they are floating. Like, no, it's messy.
It's
You're
miserable.
Like pushed and like.
Honestly, it's the worst when someone's foot and it's like, God, I just pushed someone by me.
So this is bringing up so many memories. Like, I went to HF Festival for a long time. I saw Bush. We saw those guys. You said Rage. Rage was there one time. Sure. Like, that's the cool thing about concerts. Like, I literally haven't thought about this in 20
Weren't
years.
You supposed to be at Woodstock 99?
I was supposed to. My friend Timmy went.
I know two people that went. Actually, somebody that works in this building was there.
Really?
Yeah.
That was the infamous Mud Fest for Nine Inch Nails, wasn't it? Where it was like
it was a Mud Fest.
No. It was all on concrete.
Was Firefight. Yeah, that's right. It was all.
It was all concrete. No, it's when Limp Bizkit
brutal.
like got the crowd all revved
Limp
up.
Bizkit, Korn.
Rage Against the Machine was there though. Offspring was there.
It's one of my biggest regrets.
And they started tearing down the structures.
And then they made that documentary on Netflix. You
so
check it out.
I remember thinking Woodstock 99. I should have went. That would have been, I don't know, my junior year of college, whatever. And my friend Tim went, and I didn't go, and everybody gave us hard times, whatever. But then the funny part is the documentary came on. You should watch it. It's a great doc. It's actually kind of horrible, but a great documentary.
Yeah.
And then the funniest part about it is there's a water fountain on there you drink out of, and the water fountain, and it's all nasty with sewage in it and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my friend Tim. He goes, "Yeah, I drink out of that."
I remember drinking out of it, which is even worse.
What they said, I mean, so what the like all the water stopped working, all the toilets stopped working on the first day. So this is a firsthand account from somebody that I know. Like she gave me the whole lowdown, and they wouldn't let you bring anything in. So you couldn't bring in your own food or your own water.
Because they were selling water for like $12 a bottle.
Oh,
or
and then
something.
everything broke, and then they let you go out and come back in. But she said that like all her friends were like super. It was so hot, and they were so dehydrated. And some guy had a big jug.
So
he's like, "Do you want this?" And she chugged it, and it was vodka. So she ended up. She's like
Somebody
so
we know, do
dehydrated,
not say their name, but I
and
know
she like 6 shots because she thought it was water, and she's so parched, and like the whole thing was like people are walking around naked.
She
The
goes
whole
like
thing was crazy.
this. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like I needed that.
I'm going to go over here and die.
Woodstock 99 was on a tarmac. Like it was like like a
At an
big
airport,
at
literally.
an airport. Like so super hot, no water, angsty teens.
It's a great documentary.
It is. You should check it out.
I was around a couple big festivals. See, festivals are huge out here, and I wasn't
Out
was
here
more a
like
club kid.
Appalachia.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it just seems like this area, everybody's really into the festival scene.
Yeah.
What was
Festivals
your-
in Thailand.
What was your favorite like festival that you worked at?
that I worked in. I mean, I got to work Ozfest back when Ozzy was just coming back, like in the early 2000s, and doing like the supposed last tour with Black Sabbath. You know, there was like 6 more after
Yeah.
that. But Ozfest was a very eye-opening experience for
So-
somebody that.
It's just one event, right? And it's located. Where is Ozfest? Pennsylvania.
And Ozfest toured all over the states.
toured,
and
okay.
Where I worked at was Alpine Valley, which was one of the gnarliest music venues you could go to. It's where
Indoors.
it was outdoors.
Oh, outdoors.
It's sort of like having Wisp, which is sort of the reason I wish Wisp would really go.
It
all
would be a
out
good
with
venue.
music.
Yeah.
It would be.
I don't know how you do it. Like if you picked a good headliner to come there to play at Wisp, and you got Wisp to agree to do it, I think you'd sell out.
I think so too. There's some stuff kicked around. I'm friends with a few people that have a little bit more connection than I do.
And it doesn't have to be Wisp. I'm talking any venue locally, like a big venue.
Wisp would be cool just because it's like an amphitheater, right? It's like a hillside. People are all over.
It is naturally set up
hitting
for
the
it.
you know
Yeah.
that giant volleyball thing, right?
Well, they've got
And
the logistics for it.
That's
You know,
true, too.
They've
They've
got
got
the
They've
Park
got
people,
the
workers, and
parking.
food.
Yeah, they've got everything set up.
yeah.
And
So-
I'd love to see that. I mean,
Yeah.
a friend of mine was just trying to pitch me. He's like, we could get the yeahs out there. You think about that? And, you know, I've got a couple connections to people that work with Clutch, and I would love to see Clutch. And if you don't know who Clutch is, they're one of the best American rock and roll bands. They got
Yeah, but
hits.
they're newer, right? Like they're like last
They've been on
30
forever.
years.
Yeah, they've
right?
been around forever. They've been playing, I
Say
think, since
newer.
at least the early 90s.
30 years?
They're like 70.
Yeah.
Well, it goes by
You're right.
quick,
No,
yeah.
we're new. We're new. If you're 30, you're new. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so much music. So many people, you know, they're still listening to the radio, and the radio's still playing the same crap.
Oh, I
it was
hate the
playing
radio.
in the late 90s, early 2000s. And if you're going off of that, obviously you're just a dinosaur. I mean, everybody's listening to Spotify or
That's
Pandora
that's
or
actually
YouTube.
my beef with Sirius, right? So I like Lithium on Sirius, right, for the first hour. But
Yeah.
there's only so many songs I can listen to on that same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe 2 hours, and I get tired of it. So
You got to hunt.
Yeah,
There's-
even
there's great stuff.
Spotify is not, honestly, and I know people probably disagree with me, but I thought I got more of a variety from Pandora.
I totally
because
agree
you're
with
missing
you.
the DJ. I think Pandora almost makes itself a DJ because I don't know what Pandora's going to play.
Spotify's
right?
supposed to, but
No,
it just
I
kind of
agree.
keeps looping back like a radio
Pandora.
station.
Pandora is without a doubt the best.
Sorry, Joe Rogan. It's time
go-
to switch to Pandora.
Go back to the Howard Stern generation, like me, right? I liked it. He played what music I wanted to hear. I didn't have to think about what I wanted to listen to. He played it. We were growing up in
Yeah.
D.C. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't see it as much. I mean, there's so many people. You look at Saturday Night Live, they push out who they're promoting.
Well,
who
that's
they got paid
true.
to
That's true.
promote.
Beastie Boys, actually, I'm pretty sure was on SNL.
Sure,
at
they
one point.
were.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, back in the day, it was a little bit
I
more
wasn't
cutting
there.
edge.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, now there's not a lot on television that I think. I mean, Austin City Limits has been.
Wait,
on
what do you
for
mean?
100
Not a lot on
million years.
television?
When
Like
it comes
live
to-
music?
When it comes to promoting new music,
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, MTV died a death a long time ago, and there's new MTV channels. MTV.
What about
8,
like
the
people go
Ocho
on
or
like Jimmy
whatever.
Kimmel and stuff like that, right? They have bands.
Yeah, I mean, there's still bands. It's mostly
Wolfpack was on
it's
there.
mostly like popular acts, but every now and then like gems come through or like really up and coming. But I
Yeah.
mean, they do for the most part. Like SNL has like famous people you have heard of.
That's true.
Do you
I
guys
heard
remember what was MTV before MTV?
No.
It was the land of of honey and sweet,
Saturday night videos.
Yeah.
What's
Dude,
Saturday night video?
When I was a kid in the 80s, on Saturday night, I don't remember what time, say 10 o'clock, it would come on videos. It was the birth of MTV.
So
and it was
before
cool.
MTV.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was no, I don't know, it was Saturday night videos. I mean, Guns N' Roses or whoever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Then MTV came around in the 90s, I guess, kind of popular when I was still growing up, and it was great. And nowadays, MTV is, dude, I love the guy, it's all Rob Dyrdek. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
all
yeah.
MTV
Right.
is.
Respect,
Where's
Rob.
the-
Respect.
Like, no, I
But-
think ridiculous is hilarious,
Yeah.
but at the same time, yeah, I don't
Where's the
know.
music?
Yeah.
Where's the M
Listen,
in the MTV?
there's a whole song about it. Video killed
the
the
radio
radio
star,
star.
I know.
All right.
So
So
when-
learn this lesson.
Do you get? You might. I don't know.
Well, who
you
killed the
might.
video star podcast?
Yeah, the podcast star, the Rogan.
the
killed-
audio star.
I actually,
the radio killed
We're
the
taking
video
it back. We're taking it back. Our
hopefully without getting my battleship sunk, I've actually ripped off MTV and started Moon TV whenever we don't have live music at MoonShadow.
Sweet.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
we already pay the Music Mafia, which is, BMI and ASCAP and all the things we have to pay to allow us to have live music.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I've got the ability to show music videos, and I VJ up there, and I try
Oh,
to
like
throw-
at MoonShadow. I mean,
Yeah,
eating dinner, you're watching
yeah.
videos.
And
That's
I
a
try
cool
not
idea.
to play the crap that everybody's heard. I try to play deep cuts and live stuff, live performances that have good sound quality.
Yeah.
And, for the MTV generation and the people that are older than that, I was surprised at how much of an impact just music videos being
Sure.
played on a television or
To
live
the
in-
atmosphere,
to,
you
to
mean?
the atmosphere.
Yeah.
It makes me happy. It reminds me when
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There is
That's
something
true
to
too.
it.
Yeah.
Because we do get quite a few older people in there. You got
Well,
people in
and
their
you
50s,
get
60s, 70s.
you get a
that-
crunchy crowd there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they might have actually been at that show.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got people like you've got Buffalo Run guys that actually were at Woodstock, and some of them even hung out and met there.
I
That's
jammed with Hank the drummer the other night.
Hank's great.
Yeah,
guy.
he's a cool dude, man.
all those
Shout
guys
out
are
Hank.
great, man.
They are. That's
And-
true.
Dude,
Yeah.
so there was one night I was sitting there. I kind of snuck in, and I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. Went to the bar. I think Russell was there. I said hi, sat down, and looked up on stage. And Mike, you were playing bass.
Yeah.
I don't even know who you were with. It was like some
That was
people. I was like, wait.
I was with
like, Mike's on
Compton
stage.
or I was with Chris Compton, Phillip, and
Was that the
Dan.
Christmas show?
No, it wasn't the Christmas show.
What's
I didn't play
this?
with them at the Christmas
What's
show.
the etiquette behind that? Because I really want to be like, yo, Mike, what's up? But I
Hey,
didn't
man.
know. I didn't want to like ruin your I didn't know.
I believe it's throw your bra on stage.
I didn't
Yeah.
know. All right.
So
next
that's-
time I'm bringing one.
There you go. I just keep one in the bag for such an occasion. When I don't want to forget about this because I would love to see if anybody, listeners or you remember a channel called The Box. The Box was a music video channel, right? All music videos all day. It didn't do anything else, and it had a hotline number, and you can call in and request music videos.
There's your next podcast for YouTube. That'd be cool. It probably exists. But
Talk about The Box.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
Maybe.
That was just crazy. And,
20,
and it was like a
23, you might
flash
have
in the
to
pan. I
rename
was like,
it.
where'd it go? It's gone. All of a sudden it's gone. It went away with plugging it, screw it in the back TV cable.
Hey, no, I thought I had a thought a minute ago. So again, talking about music brings you back. So I started thinking about going to concerts, and I went through a period of my life where I was really into bass. Like I was.
Oh, sure.
I had a station.
You're a child of the '90s.
Dude.
Everybody's car was
I
the
had-
Earthquake on wheels.
I had a white station wagon with red interior and wood paneling on the side. I went to the farmer's market at the time and bought these speakers that I have no idea where they came from. I had the loudest car in the planet. Like it was so loud.
You were probably
the
proud,
sides
too,
would
though,
shake.
weren't you?
Oh, dude, it was so proud.
Yeah.
And then I turned it into a business. I started selling it to my friends because I figured out how to wire it up. I figured out how to install amps. I figured out how the one amp
Good
worked
for
with the
you.
other amp.
Nice.
I was building my own boxes in the garage. Like I wouldn't use screws. I'd use wooden dowels. They wouldn't rattle. And the point I was getting here, sound. Still to this day, I don't think any artist uses bass as much as Ozzy Osbourne. Like everybody talks about rap music, every whatever.
Sure.
Ozzy's bass is legit. Like when Ozzy's bass would hit, like "Mama, I'm Coming Home," it would just. I remember it would rattle the windows out of that station wagon. No, they weren't in very good in the first place, but
Ozzy had one of the greatest rhythm sections of all time in Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
And going in when he played with other people too. A lot of people talk about Randy Rhoads as a guitarist from the 80s. I know a friend of mine out there, Alan, he's like a believer. He thinks that Randy's going to come back. He died in, I believe, a bus accident.
So when you listen to Randy Rhoads' solos on the album, he double takes them.
Does he?
They're double took solos. So he basically plays the solo almost exactly the same way. And he's shredding. Almost exactly the same. Listen, next time you listen to it, be like, oh, it sounds like there's two guitars playing the same exact solo, but it's not like they took the same take. They took 2 takes. That's how talented that guy was.
He really was.
Yeah.
There's a whole cult of Randy Rhoads followers. I wasn't,
And
one
he's
of them,
this
but-
tall, dude. He was a little. He looked like he was straight out of the Labyrinth.
Well, a lot of great musicians are short. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. But there's a lot of.
You got it, Mike.
There might be some correlation. I don't know.
John and I are tall.
Mike's not short. He's 5'4".
5'6.5". You can put whatever you want on your license, so I'm technically 5'7".
To talk about getting old, I've always been 6 foot. I went to the doctor the day they measured me. I was like 5'11". I was like, I think your thing's wrong.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
no, apparently
Excuse
I'm
me.
5'11". I slouch.
Life wearing you down.
Dude, gravity, man. It's not just a good idea. It's the law.
I need to go to more concerts.
There you go. Jump.
I
That'll get
Stretched out. You
Yeah,
could crowd
exactly.
surf.
That was-
Get stretched.
No, I've passed my crowd surfing. I tried it once. I was so hyped and it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I was always the guy catching people as they were like body
That
and
was
soul
normally
throwing
me,
over
but
the
for
wall.
whatever reason that day I just
Were you
Sully,
so
where were
annoyed?
you, man?
Yeah,
Were
like,
you so annoyed when people like
I mean-
when they like come because when you're in a crowd and you're watching people get to the front, it looks like the security guards are like
Just
well, here's
It's like-
rolling their eyes
like-
and they're like, not another one, and they like pick you up
Oh,
and
no,
set you
dude.
down, and then you have to leave
What's
right
the?
away.
I'm
What's
the
work,
fire
you know?
starter. The fire starter guy.
oh man.
I was at
should know
HF Festival and that guy was singing. This is again
Dang,
90s
John, you did
or
go to a
whatever.
lot of
The
concerts.
I
Prodigy.
would, Prodigy, yes.
Prodigy, yeah.
And Prodigy would get you pumped. Like I think that was even like Limp Bizkit was on the outside stage that year. Like it was like coming onto that. Prodigy's inside. He was the fire starter. And I remember the bounce at the time. This mosh pit broke out, and I'm not saying I don't get scared of things. Of course I do. I legit got scared. I was like, I'm out of here. Like, I mean, it was
Sure.
those mosh pits and being a bouncer in something like that. It was. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I was always the.
I got
was the-
sucked in by the bush, Mike, like Homer Simpson. I was
Oh, yes.
Yeah, for me, I
Gone.
mean, I was always the atypical security guy because I'm a big dude. I'm a much bigger man now, but I wasn't as big as a lot of the dudes that were working, and I tended to have a much more laid back, cool attitude. I wasn't busting people in the head with
Like
bottles.
John.
I didn't
You're
want to
the
write-
Velvet Hammer.
Right. I was the guy. I was like Swayze, man. I was the cooler. I would just come in and make sure that you weren't, tripping too hard on your drugs or you weren't hurt. And I wasn't going to punch somebody in the face just because they're having a good time. So I got hired to be the head of security for a couple clubs, and that's what got me in the door.
Dude,
'cause
security is all about de-escalation,
Yeah.
and one of the things that de-escalates things the most is just being a big person.
Yeah,
Right? You're just
yeah.
big. You're like, all right, I'm
Right,
not messing with
and
that guy.
The best of those guys are the big teddy bear guys, but there's plenty
Oh,
of
for
dudes
sure.
that just want to get ripped and go out there and punch some kid in
Beat
the face
people
because
up,
he
yeah.
was dumb.
little wrestlers. They're always the toughest.
Yeah, little scrappy guys, and that's the thing is
And bricklayers.
you deal with these bouncers and you see bouncers out at shows like this. They've dealt with this is work, so
Oh, yeah.
it's Thursday to them, and you may be out for like this incredible night. I am out. This is the show I have wanted to see for months. I am going to have the best night of my life. And the bouncer's like, I'm just trying to get to 9, baby.
Sounds like an epilogue
Yeah.
for Star Wars. That was
Yeah.
pretty good.
Oh yeah, I got you. And so the bouncers are already in that state of like, I got to deal with this crowd.
That's what I mean. You can clearly
Right.
see it on their
and,
faces.
And you got these kids that
And
are
they're
like,
sober. They're like, get
Yeah.
out of here.
exactly.
Right. Yeah, you can see it on their
like,
faces, and then you have all these kids that are like flailing. You've got, you can only get kicked by a sneakered 17-year-old drug addict in the face, so many times before you're like, I'm going to drop this kid on the concrete, and his
Yeah.
parents are going to have to pick him up at the
Well,
hospital.
you don't even have to try though, because the people just move towards the middle, and then instead of catching them, you go, oh,
Right, which is what happened to you. They saw you coming.
Oh, yeah, no, they were
crowd, and they're like, step back.
The worst part was the next day I was like, I get it. I would have got out of the way too.
Yeah.
I would have got out of like, no, dude, you're way too big for this.
And a lot of clubs and a lot of bouncers, and I mean, it was one of those things coming out of the 90s, like moshing was a way of life. You got down, I'm going to beat the living
Dude, I
crap out of
used to
everyone.
throw down,
was
dude.
rough.
But
Sure.
I came up in the hardcore, like fighting invisible ninjas kind of moshing.
Sure.
Not like the
Like
run
the guy,
around and
like the
run
guy at
into-
Walmart the other day.
Basically, exactly like him. I got to show you a video.
Do you know that I got multiple Snapchats about that same person?
Dude, me too. I had
Apparently,
Mike.
he was out there for hours.
Yeah, he was out there for hours.
Who
I got
was it?
more than one
You
video.
and Caitlin were both
Where
texting me pictures of it.
Was
Yeah.
this at the local Walmart or is this
Yeah, at the local
nationwide?
Walmart.
Walmart.
The Walmart.
Yeah, yeah. At the self pickup, there was a guy who was like he was kind of dancing, kind of Dragon Ball Z Kamehameha, kind of like.
Did it work?
Like, as far as I know, I didn't see any birds dropping.
I've been trying.
He
I've been practicing Jedi moves and Kamehameha waves for years.
You might. All right, so I think I picked up
Just
my
cost me
groceries on
dates.
Friday. Dry Fridays around noon. You might still be out there.
I'm going to say this right now. Part of the reason I started working in music too is that I'm not the guy that's normally right in the heat of all the fun and excitement. I love watching it. I love watching all the crazy stuff that goes on and
Yeah, me
watching
too.
people, like just being a bartender and sitting back and watching humanity unfold at times. It's
So
I mean,
I will say though, like when I worked at Mountain State for a little bit and like, getting in the heat of things, those guys turn pies and beers. Like, I mean, it gets cranking in there. I much rather enjoy sitting at the bar watching it. Like just like sitting on that side and being like, oh, and watching them and then also watching the customers. There's like the restaurant environments are just
I started
fascinating.
bartending at Red Run when I was 21 years old and bartended probably till 28. I give a lot of that credit to where I am today because you learn how to deal with stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you learn how to make a
Grit.
drink you don't know how to make. You just, and the other part is I'll credit to some of my funnest 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of fun.
I think that's why
Yeah.
I've always gravitated back to it. And what's, kept me afloat. When I was a young man, I was going to college and I was struggling through college because I could not keep my head where it should be. My grandfather, short before he died, told me, if you're not going to stick with this, you're not going to go on, you're not going to continue your education, you better learn how to make a drink and you better learn how to make food because people are always going to be thirsty. They're always going to be hungry. And in fact, the worse it gets, the more thirsty and hungry they're going to be for that entertainment. And we learned that lesson during pandemic pretty well. You talk about Mountain State. I served my time at
Oh
Mountain
my
State.
gosh, man. They were just on fire.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
rocking and rolling. We were the essentials, man. I've got fond memories of working through some of those days where everybody else is at home and the service industry kids were.
It almost seems like
we're
it
doing
didn't
it.
happen now that I'm looking back at
Well,
it.
it's 3
It was-
years, and it feels like it was just yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's been 3 years of this, and we talk about like the scene, and we're going to circle way back here. Is that what's gone on since pandemic? Is that we've got a bunch of kids that are now 21 years old or
That
22.
have never
23,
been to a concert.
never been out.
Oh,
and they
yeah.
don't.
Oh, wait
have
till they
the bar
go.
experience.
Even if it is
Yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true,
it's-
yeah.
I mean,
Wait until you see my outfit.
She's a nice little young lady.
Who, Taylor? She's tall, dude.
so it's
Right? She's got
That was a-
Yeah, the talented girls are tall. Talented men are short.
Short, okay.
I think that's how it
Kanye
goes.
John Mayer's pretty talented, and I don't think he's short.
Well, tall women are talented.
tall women are dangerous. I'm dating a tall woman. My girlfriend is dangerous as shit. She's tall. She's gonna be listening.
How tall is she?
She's 6 foot. I mean,
Yeah?
I'm 5'8" when I'm standing straight, and
So you wear
she's-
the high heels.
I do. I love it. She's great. She's got her own thing going. She's tall, and she put on white go-go boots the other night to go out with me, and I felt like an Oompa Loompa with it. I mean, she's great. 'Cause she's an ex-model. She did some modeling. She's an artist. She's from the region, and so she's tall, she's skinny, and then there's me, and it's like, oh, that's right, honey.
I was an Oompa Loompa for Halloween one year. It was pretty fun.
How'd that go?
Oh, it was great, dude. It was me and two of my buddies. All three of us were Oompa Loompas.
I
Self-made. We didn't buy the outfits. We made everything.
anything, you can go out in a big city. You go out as an Oompa Loompa, and you start looking for the other Loompas. You can make like a roving gang.
You're like, it's like when you buy a car and you've never seen one that's just like yours until you get it, and then you start seeing them everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Everybody's got a Honda Accord.
They do, though.
Yeah, Toyota Corollas. It's just
Weird. It's just you, Mike.
yeah, that's how you get away from the cops, man. You get like a tan Toyota Corolla and just park it on the side.
99.
Yeah.
I still think it's funny because we're talking about COVID a little bit. When you see the one person driving on the road in their Toyota Corolla in the car by themselves with their
Mask on.
Oh my
yeah.
God, I
Yep.
just saw that the other
You know
day.
they just forgot. Like
Yeah.
you know you
They
forgot to
did.
take
They
it
just
off. Like,
forgot.
there's nobody with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it. The girlfriend. I'm on. She's gonna be so happy that I brought her up. Oh man, this
Well, what's
is
her
buying me
name?
points.
What's up, Alex?
Alex, Alexandra, my beautiful green-haired weirdo. Alex has got some health issues, and it's actually what kind of.
She might not be
hindered her.
happy you brought that up.
Well, no. She's somebody that advocates for it.
She has
had
to
to
wear
wear
a
the
mask.
mask
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
And so I've got, it's like one of our first dates. I took her out to Baltimore to see a show because
Yeah.
she's a music hound just like I am. And, she is dressed to the nine. I am salivating, and then the mask goes on. And it's like, well. I mean, it's not like, it's kind of like, I'm like living in
I
Blade
get it.
Runner.
Yeah, she needs to.
Yeah, Blade Runner.
Yeah, it's like, she's got neon green hair.
hey,
She got the black.
What venue did you go to in Baltimore? Where'd you go?
Oh man, I'm gonna soundstage.
The guy that owns Hammerjacks is a friend of mine. He's coming on the podcast. Have you been to Hammerjacks?
I have not.
So Hammerjacks was awesome again in the 90s, and it kind of closed down. And they reopened it, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago. But Baltimore's got great music scene.
They do.
Where did you say you went?
I went to the Soundstage. Soundstage, I think.
I don't know where that one
Baltimore Soundstage.
I don't know Baltimore at all.
It was my first time going to Baltimore. I'd only
Like
been
down near
there
the Inner Harbor somewhere?
Yeah, it's down in
Okay.
Inner Harbor, and it was a great show. The sound had some problems throughout the night, and for me, I'm just constantly critiquing everything, like, and they're taking a long time on their set change, how this sound. But really, it was a great venue. Saw a band called the Proto Men, probably one of the most fun bar gigs. I saw them start out years ago at the Frequency, and there was nobody there for their show. And let me tell you what the Proto Men are. They are a rock opera group that did the rock opera to the video game Mega Man from the 1990s. Does anybody remember Mega Man, right? Yeah, it is the dorkiest thing ever, but they have such a good time because they're all talented musicians. They're from
And
Nashville.
everybody my age is like, Mega Man was
Yeah.
my favorite
For
video
some
game
reason, I'm
ever.
thinking Kubert. But
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
this kid, one of the kids.
We'll start that band.
One of the kids
Hubert Opera Rock Band.
had health issues growing up, so all he did was play video games. Much like most of our lost generation, we're all out there playing Call of Duty and video games every day.
See, here's the thing. Once my thumbs got on those like knobby things that go all different directions, I just don't have I can do this all day, but once like you have to like your head moves this one and then your gun moves this one, I was like, nope, I'm done. I can't do this. It's too hard.
I was bad. I love video games. I was raised by a television. I was definitely a child of the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
I was just like, just sit down, watch this.
So
Shut
I
up.
can do like Super Mario, boom, all day, love it. It's like achievable. Like you can do it. Once you get to like Super Mario 64, it's like, wow, what this giant world. I get like 2 days in and I'm done. I'm just like, I can't do this. It gets hard and then I quit. I'm like, I gotta go do something.
Yeah.
I gotta go do
trying to
something.
think when I lived in Baltimore. I think I lived in Baltimore in 96 to 2000. And I used to work, there was a chart house down there right where you were at the Inner Harbor. And the cool thing about the chart house was it was a fancy restaurant, so it closed at 10 o'clock. So I was a bartender at the chart house. We worked till 10 o'clock. And we get off, we'd always hit Fells Point. And I think there was a Howl of the Moon down there and stuff like that. But it is fun. When you go see bands, that's what we would do on the weekends.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what we need to have. I would love to see more of that here. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I think you have an opportunity to help bring it to the table. I'm sold. I want to see more of it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I've got some crazy stuff coming up this year. I mean, I'm working on some
what do
stuff.
we got this
Can
summer?
you tell us about
This
it?
summer.
In the
Yeah,
book?
some of the stuff isn't inked, but we'll talk about it because I'm a gossip. Well, to circle back, I've got a Harry Chapin tribute show in June, which is for all the older folks out there. Probably that applies to them.
Don't look at me.
Yeah, Harry Chapin.
all the older folks.
right,
out there.
All three of you just looked at me. I don't know who this guy is.
Right. I
Looking
mean,
at
so
the
I'm
spin
sure
on
he's
my
great.
microphone.
I don't know.
everybody that can remember America back before the downfall, they probably be excited for that. But that's going to be a benefit for Why Hunger, which is one of his benefits he set up back in the 70s.
Oh,
which is
cool.
Feeding,
what is it?
Getting clean water and food to children worldwide, but in particular here in the States, because they're fighting hard to get Flint their clean water.
Oh, yeah?
They're fighting hard to make sure
Good
that the kids are
Lord.
good. But for
Stuff we
me,
forget about. Jesus.
my excitement. I mean, I've got a crew of shows that are coming up that aren't necessarily MoonShadow material. The most notable is my boys in the Giraffes. You got to
Okay,
play with
giraffes are cool, super duper, excellent acts,
Yeah.
super loud
Yeah,
and
abs-
like in your face.
Was that New Year's Eve?
No.
was
They
a-
came up for like some random show that we played.
Is it
on a
rock?
Sunday. Yeah, it was
on
a
Sun-
rock.
It was a
and roll.
Sunday night.
Yeah,
in
it
fact.
was a strange Sunday, and these guys, this band is one of my favorite bands I've
They're
ever
called
worked
the
with.
Giraffes.
The Giraffes, yeah.
They've
So
got-
the cool thing about that is like you really start to see, and then again, like I think there's more of a scene for bigger acts for locals. Because locals are the ones that are going to come out, man. People might like the crew that the Birds had coming out to shows. That's who's going to come out to these big acts. Because like we played for a little bit, and then 30 people stuck around for the drafts.
Wait,
because
didn't
don't
you
get to
guys
see
play
that,
on
like-
New Year's Eve?
We did. We played on New Year's Eve, and who did we play? Oh, we
Well,
we headlined this New
It was
Year's
all
Eve.
very strategic. You understand?
Yeah.
Like, I had faith in you guys before you were really playing gigs. I'm like, these guys, they've got all the friends, they know everybody.
They got all
like,
the friends.
why are they not out just jamming in a club?
How did I see this? So I was flying New Year's Eve, and I watched you on a plane. You put it on Facebook or something? Was that you?
We've got on YouTube and we've streamed on Facebook too. I think,
Maybe,
too.
yeah. So who has it? Mackie has.
I didn't watch your whole
YouTube
show,
channel.
but I watched a little bit on the plane. I mean, it was pretty good.
I mean, Mackie, one of our audio tech there, who's my main man, Mac records everything on video.
Live for
and
Live. That's the one.
Live for
Or-
Live
yeah,
is on
yeah.
YouTube. And we'll be releasing stuff too off of Moon TV. We'll have our own
Yeah.
YouTube channel as it's coming up. We're just kind of building it at this point. And, we try to offer recording services for anybody that comes in, especially for bands that don't have the money to go in and record off of a digital board. And my predecessor, Ox, I've never actually met him, but the man he made a lot of strides.
Super guy.
And he helped get a system in there. That Behringer X32 we have.
Ooh, that thing is.
It's a
awesome.
massive system for such a small place. And that's part of the reason we had problems with sound for so long. That MoonShadow people would complain, be like, man.
Modern
sound is-
industry standard, dude.
Yeah,
That thing is.
And
very
so we're outfitted for big game. We've got all the bells and whistles that any type of touring act would need to come in and play, as opposed to just doing bar gigs.
So if
And,
you're listening,
yeah, if you're out there,
we want you.
We want you. We want
So
you.
think about that. Well, we actually do have listeners. So someone probably is listening.
Oh, I'm Jeremy Renner. Come on, bro.
Our ratings are getting better. We're getting more followers on the show, whatever it's called, more listeners. Okay, so pretend like I'm a band and I want to come play at MoonShadow. How do I get in front of you?
Well, I mean, we have our website. If you go on www.moonshadow145.com, we've got forms on there for anybody that's looking to book. They can just go in. It's a simple form that you just fill out saying, yes, we want to play. Here's our music. Please call me if we don't suck. And then there's my Facebook booking profile, which is Sullivan MoonShadow.
Do you get bands that you're like, no? Do you turn people down?
Everybody is a wonderful artist.
For the birds got it because
You don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not, you don't have
like-
to mention them. I'm
we
just
were
saying, like,
just
do you get like tons of requests,
yeah.
and you're just like, not? Do you give them
Mike had to
constructive
pay you
feedback?
guys.
I got to say, I haven't been able to say this, but Lisa Jan, the owner of MoonShadow, she's a true, I guess she's a patron of the arts. She has allowed this cool stuff to go
You
on.
think she'd come on the podcast? Like I know of Lisa.
I don't
and
think
know
Lisa
to
would
say
ever
hi.
be on a podcast, but she has a blowhard with a beard, which is me, that
Yeah,
can go
all
out
right,
and spread the
sweet.
word. But Lisa, she's allowed some cool stuff to go on there. And when it comes to getting bands in, a lot of people knew that MoonShadow kind of had a cool reputation for Americana. So I have all the bluegrass and Americana people around here going, oh, it's open again. Cool, we'll come down. But for all the other musicians, I have had to reach out and I post across multiple states
Yeah,
that
it's the
MoonShadow's
other
looking.
way. Like you're trying to get them.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Yeah.
come, we got something going
But
on
now
here.
that it's spread, I mean, there's so many musicians I'd love to just throw some love at right now. People that have really helped. Joe Keys, particularly, Tim Vitullo, Kelly Lynott. I mean, I can't sit and list all the people that have been so helpful, but they spread the word that they've got a great stage at MoonShadow.
Yeah.
The sound quality is up there with anybody. I mean, I'll take on any other venues. Our sound quality is definitely improved.
It's great, dude. It's I've sat back at that table with you, and I've just gone. I've watched it because I pay attention because I'm passionate about it, and I want it to. It's kind of like I'm like if you build it, they will come. Like I'll just wish and wish and wish and sit there and really. I hope it happens. I think that you're making
certainly
good
does.
stride for it, but how it winds up evolving into. I don't think we know. I think it's kind of a mystery what it's going to shake out to be. But I think in the meantime, putting energy towards it and having the opportunity, like you said, Lisa, allowing you to experiment with, hey, we don't really know what we are.
Right.
Like this is what I think it is. Let's try this out. Obviously it's a restaurant, so you gotta stick with your bread and butter. Literally.
I had a great conversation with her when I first came in, and she was eyeing me up, didn't really know how to quantify me, and I was like, so I know what you've had here before, but what do you want to hear here? What do you want to see? And she just kind of looked at me. She's like, well, if it's weird, it's not boring. It's like, got it.
That's
All
pretty
right,
cool.
let's
That's
do
a great
it.
comment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can.
We're
go
gonna
with
work well together.
Yeah.
Dude,
and-
can you get her to put it in an outdoor stage?
We've
pretty cool.
We've
That would be
actually got to
super
set up
cool.
outside so that
Yeah.
we can play on our patio, but we've
Yeah.
got a lot of houses right over
Oh,
there,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we don't
yeah.
want. We've already got a couple
The
people that get
college.
touchy.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to do outdoor stuff, but that's really my kind of plea, my call out to everybody around here is that I've reached out to Black Bear and I've reached out to a few other establishments where I would like to help. Now that because most restaurants, most bars, they don't have the luxury of having somebody like me that my job is marketing, entertainment, finding people, and I am constantly out on the road. I'm driving to other venues. I'm seeing who's playing there. I'm trying to support
Making
the other
connections
venues,
with
making
the
the connections.
musicians.
And my job is not something that's seen outside of most big cities.
Sure.
And I'm very fortunate for that. I'm very fortunate that Lisa has seen the potential of what I'm doing and that she's put her money out there for me. Because, I'd just be bartending or I'd, probably be stripping. I mean, you guys can see that I'm a talent that on a pole.
Come back with
salty
green
about
hair.
that.
Yeah, I was really
all of
wrong
our
with that.
listeners are like, oh wow, they're gonna go.
yeah.
They're gonna go
They're
check.
right. Taking notes here.
They're
Take
checking.
notes.
No, they're gonna check
Right.
the YouTube video out to
Yeah,
confirm whether or not that's true.
If Lisa Jan hadn't taken this chance on me, I was actually thinking about becoming a chip and dip dancer. Which is
Okay.
just, guys in their 40s that are fat walking around with bowls of dip and chips. And that,
I was going to ask. I thought you said it wrong.
We're really hot with, the over 50 crowd, the divorcee crowd, where they're not worried about perfect
Chip and
bodies.
dip.
They,
Yeah.
they're not going to be worried about picking a little bit of body hair out of the French onion dip.
So are you going to ask him?
Yeah,
Are you going to go for it?
yeah.
At great risk.
Great risk.
What are you salty about?
What am I salty about? All right.
All right, hold on. There we go. No,
Belly button lint in the chip and dip.
What makes me salty?
No. What are you salty about?
What am I salty about?
Let's keep it a little confined.
There's your
What comes
opener.
to mind right now that you're salty
It's the
about?
Not Salty podcast. You're Sully. Just change it to salty and that'll be
The
opener
Not
of the show.
Salty.
Yeah.
Not Sully podcast. This is when I'm not here. What I'm salty about is that that there's people that I'm bringing in great shows. I bring in music, and it's hard to get people to try new things in the area.
Sure.
There's a lot of people. They'll raise an eyebrow and be like, "You have what coming?" Like I had Symbio, who was a Swedish folk band that was a two-piece. One of the most incredible shows I've ever worked
I've
in my
heard great
life.
things.
They
Again,
played a brunch show
missed it.
and completely professional. Not something that's ever gonna. They did not anticipate coming to Deep Creek, Maryland.
Yeah.
And when they came here, they had a great time. And that's what I'm really selling these guys is that it's a little bit of a staycation. We're not Baltimore. We're not Pittsburgh.
city,
we're not,
yeah.
We're not even Morgantown. But we've got these beautiful mountains. And one of the things that really accommodates this, and I know that she's a friend to some of the people in the room, but Kim Alexander and Dan Bordeaux have put together Heartwood Farm. And that is
Up in Friendsville.
Up in Friendsville. And those two people have been just angels on my shoulders this entire time because they've opened up their house to be a music retreat or an artist retreat for people that are touring.
Oh, is that where you go play sometime? Is that what you were talking
Yeah,
about?
they have a stage that they put up in the summer, but they're just friends of ours. We'll take Lucy up there to play with the ducks.
Yeah, they've got this beautiful property. And,
It is cool.
They've got rooms.
Russell actually sold them the farm up there. It's like 60 acres.
Cool.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's lovely. And you get these people that are from out of the city, particularly folks out in New York City. When the giraffes came down last time, I said, "I've got lodging for you." And they're like, "What type of trailer are you going to cram us into?" And I was like, "No. I'm like, I got friends. It's organic farm. They don't ask you to pay. They just want you to do a little bit of yard work, or they want you to do a little chore, feed the ducks, you split some wood, play some music.
Cathartic.
Yeah, it's cathartic stuff.
Cathartic.
And those two have helped me build this. I mean, they really are the center of the hub that I have a place for musicians to stay free and that it's a safe place, particularly for young women. That's something that I think a lot of people go out to shows or see music on a Friday or Saturday and it's in and out. You don't think about the consequences of that person having to drive 3 hours or farther. And for young women, it's a tough game out there. And, you don't have a place to stay and you've got some club promoters that are a little bit
Sketchy.
sketchier and sleazier than others. And so Kim allows a safe place to happen. And so if you're out there, Kim and Dan, you beautiful people.
Again, it adds to the experience for the musician. That's where I think, we have the potential, and I say we, I mean Deep Creek, not like I'm working on this, but I think that there's a potential for musicians to want to come here just because they like to come here. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
they want to come here, come up here for a week, come on vacation, book a couple shows while you're up here, and you could stay at the farm. If I'm not opening Kim's door for her, but you know they are a huge part of that
Yes.
because that is a cool experience, dude. Hanging out with Kim and Dan until 3:00 in the morning playing music is freaking cool.
It is. They're stellar musicians in their own right. Dan, absolutely fantastic player, and Kim's got a very unique feel. You know, her vocals are.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful thing to sit around. I've had a lovely experience where I've just sat and Kim has played to me. And out of all the times that I've been working in music since '99, and you know, worked all sorts of venues and events, and had musicians at my house. And it's, you know, you have people jam, but Kim's been one of the few people that has sat down and just played to me, to just throw ideas at me and to play some of the music. And man, that means the world to me, just to have those little personal moments between the musicians. Even the Drafts came out here, and like I said, they're one of my favorite bands working with in club scene, and they're from New York, and they are a crazy rock and roll.
Oh, they're
band.
great. Like, dude was like, had his beer, like, bent down, picked it up, and he's like slugging it while he's playing, like, playing
Yes.
guitar. Like
It's
I was
true.
like, what the hell is going
Okay, well,
on?
speaking of crazy beer stories, what's your best Honi Honi story?
Honi Honi Story.
Have you been there?
My best Honi Honi story was going in there and applying for a bartender position and them laughing at me. Yeah. I was a young, impressionable, chubby man looking for a job in Deep Creek, and I rolled in, and I you know, and like I said, I've got bartending experience, and this is the reason that I bounced a lot. You know, getting into clubs is that they'd take one look at me and be like, yeah, you're kind of a chubby dude with a beard. I don't know how that's gonna fly with our patrons. And so I'd go in as bouncing, and then work my way into bartending because I can bust balls and I make jokes all the time, and that's, you know, kept me afloat. And I went into Honi Honi, and I had my game face
Who
on.
laughed at you?
I don't know who they were. It was almost 10 years ago. It was great.
10
And-
years ago?
Well, yeah, it was when I first
Holy
came here.
smokes.
Yeah, I walked in. I didn't get the vibe. I was just looking for a
See,
job.
everything happens for a reason.
It
There you
does.
go, yeah.
It does. I got kicked around by a bunch of jobs. All I wanted to do, and I tell you, I came in and I worked for Adrian over at Deep Creek Marina when I first came. That was my first job in Deep Creek, and it was my eye-opening Deep Creek experience.
Yeah.
And so I started reaching out and going to, you know, some of the bars and restaurants looking for, you know, just that side job while I worked on my house, and ended up at Black Bear. And I wanted to book music at Black Bear in the worst way. It's like, yes, a dirty rock and roll club. I want that.
Yeah.
And, you know, never materialized. Then I went over and I was working at Mountain State for a while, put a couple years in it for Aaron at Mountain State, and they've got a cool vibe. I wanted to do music out there.
They're limited with music.
They're limited.
Yeah, it's hard.
But outdoors, man, if you're hearing me right now, Paj, oh yeah, baby, I'd love to bring some music outdoors.
Yeah, because, I mean, they do have a stage out there, and there's potential. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all of Deep Creek, all the businesses have this way we could up our game. You know, if we started working together and started promoting each other and really working on, you know, whose connections do you have? Who can you bring in? What musicians?
And then
are
get that musician set up for the weekend, like 1, 2, 3 shows, boom, boom, boom. Because a lot of it isn't like necessarily bringing a draw as much as it is like getting them in front of the people who are already here eating dinner and hanging out. You know.
Right, and then you didn't bring this back. We were talking about what I like, what I'm bringing, and what's coming up this summer, and talking about Heartwood. One of the people that I've been introduced to is a gentleman named Dan Gildenhorn, and Dan is out in San Diego and LA area, and he does Las Vegas tribute shows for bands. And he will be bringing us Rage Against the Machine and Tool tributes. And it is the world's best.
Didn't one of them already play
No,
here? They were
haven't
going
played here
to.
yet. They were going to
Okay.
play. It was going to play last February, but as
That's
you
right.
know, that there's a bunch of stuff that went on and that just didn't
Yeah.
materialize. But we've been moving that, and he, you know, as a tribute band from Las Vegas, they've toured all over the world.
Very cool.
And
That's where all the Elvises live.
yeah, it's where
right,
all
yeah.
the Elvises live. Short ones, big ones.
I
little
actually
ones,
don't know
female
anything
ones.
about Las
Well,
Vegas.
I think you're closer than you guys think you actually are. Like, I won't say names because I can't. We were at a party 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there was a guy started playing a guitar. And I was like, wow, this is not some normal dude. Actually, when he got done, he walked over, and I was like, yeah, you've done this before, huh? And he kind of laughed at me. He was, I'll say American Idol, The Voice, one of those.
Sure.
Yeah, he won. And he was here at Deep Creek, and or for a second, whatever. He was on one of the shows. He's very popular now. And what I'm trying to get at is those people are already here.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Like,
There's
they have family here. They have whatever. You just got to tap into them, and sure, they're not going to sell out a full stadium that night,
Sure.
but they're going to sell out MoonShadow and to make them feel good because their families have connections here.
Right. That's happened a bunch. I mean, that happens, I don't know, every month I have somebody stop and be like, hey, man, I didn't realize this was here. What a great stage. What a great sound system. I'm just in town for the weekend. Get me on.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, my biggest thing is I look them dead in the eye and go, I don't have money.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's one of those things where if you're in town and I've
It's
already
you
got-
asked. Yeah, we'll
Right,
get you
like-
on. No problem.
Yeah, you come here and it's like, well, I've already been scheduled. I tend to schedule about 6 months out. That's
Yeah.
where you want. And so you can promote and you can, you know, if anything falls through, you have plenty of time to cover your butt. But I have people that come into town and they, you know, come into MoonShadow for brunch and they take one look at the stage and they're like, man, I just want to play for my family. I don't care. You don't need to pay me. And which we do. We tend to throw them money.
They like the art of just playing. They
just
wanna be
play.
there,
Sure. And
That's
play.
where that's how I feel too, man. I enjoy it. I don't have to make money as a musician. It's hard. It's brutal.
It
You
is.
know, and you got to work really, really hard, and you got to move around because you will wear out a market, you know, pretty quickly. If you want to do anything serious, like raise a family, you know.
Right.
So, you know, that's why I think you do have a potential here, like you were saying, with the hub, having musicians come through that are already here. I think it'd be the idea of having. I've never been to Asheville, but I've heard a lot of cool things about it.
That
and,
Asheville Drum Fest thing is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Have you been to
What do
that?
they do?
No, I've not yet. I know all about it.
I don't understand it. It's a Thursday night, let's say, and you're down there, and all these hippie artists get together and just start playing drums. And
Sure, drums.
I don't know, the time I was there was 300 of them. It was just really neat.
Hippie drum circles are real, man. Madison, Wisconsin's. I mean, for those of you out there that don't know, Madison is a hard drinking, hard partying college town. That is
Oh, it's a
very-
college town. Okay.
Yeah, there's multiple colleges there, and it's always had a history of music. You've got Butch Vig from Garbage, who's got his recording studio out there. He helped start Nirvana. He recorded some of Nirvana's early stuff there. There was a great place called the Mango Grill that was not much bigger than the Black Bear, and they hosted Soundgarden and Nirvana and Alice in Chains before they were big, you know, early 90s, late 80s, when they were still playing clubs. And that one club spawned this generation of music lovers and, I guess, service industry workers that just they kind of spread out. This woman, Kathy Detmers, who was just a genius, she started a place called the High Noon Saloon. You know, they all kind of came from this seed core of amazing rock and roll club, and they all went out and made their own clubs. And you had people that worked in all these different venues, so that for a while during the 90s and the early 2000s, it was the coolest place to play music that nobody realized was going to be a great place to play.
And so that's the environment that you grew up in. is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
and that's
Yeah.
that's the same energy that's around here. It's a small town. It's not nearly as big. It's not a big city. You know, we've got all these great assets, and particularly in the bluegrass and Americana scene.
So I think you're closer than you think. We're a little bit over an hour. Actually, we're way over an hour on this one, but I'm okay with it because we're going to have to edit a lot of it. So hate to cut you off with an hour time limit. Man, I got to pee real bad. So let's wrap this thing up. And,
Thanks
Sully,
for coming on, buddy.
Hey,
Dude.
thanks so much for having me on. This is
what
great.
you're doing is cool. Like literally sitting here talking to you the past hour reminded me of fun times I had, which is what music's all about. And
What Deep Creek?